Hi, welcome to Travel Tales with Judith. I'm Judith, and I share experiences and stories from my lifetime of travel. This is episode 17, and we're going to talk about Paris this time, but I want to do a disclaimer. I have traveled a lot, but I'm not a rich person. I'm not wealthy. I was a school teacher, and we know that school teachers don't make a lot of money. But what I've always done is just been really careful with savings. And since travel was one of my absolute priorities, along with reading, gardening, and what's the other one? Taking care of my cats. Um, that's where my money's gone. So, it sounds like a lot, but it's not over the course of all these years. So, for those of you who haven't been to Paris, and Paris sounds just out of this world. Paris is wonderful. I mean, I love Paris. The architecture, the history, the art museums, the walk along the Seine. Paris is special. It's a one of a kind. And unfortunately, these days it's getting overrun with so many people that want to be there and see it that it's getting kind of crowded. So make sure if you do go off season so that you're not in that mess of people. So just a few years ago, uh, my partner who lives in Denmark said, what if we go to Paris for a few days and then you can fly home from Paris?" And I thought that sounds pretty good to me. And since we love art museums and Paris has quite a few of those, I thought, okay, let's do this. But I was thinking ahead and I thought, okay, what do people do in Paris that somebody like me wouldn't do? And I thought, it would probably have something to do with the fashion industry. I am not a fashion person at all. I like clothes, indigenous clothes from interesting countries, but I'm not a shopper. But I thought, I don't know anything about the fashion industry. I don't know anything. So I thought, what could I do if I save a little bit of money out and just try to do something different? So I decided that I would see what a personal shopper in Paris would do for me. I had no intention of buying anything. I didn't even think about what I was looking at. I just thought, what would it be like to go around with a personal shopper? So I found one. You just Google these things. I found a personal shopper, and she asked some questions. She asked, "What kind of clothes do I like to wear? Do I really get dressed up? No. Do I, what kind of shoes do I like? Do I want heels? No. Um, how tall am I? What size do I take in different items? Um, what's my weight, etc., etc." And so I hired her for, I think it was 3 hours or so in an afternoon. And it really wasn't all that expensive. So we met at a metro station. We agreed on a metro station stop, and we met there on the corner. And she says, she's a nice young lady. She says, "Come this way. We're going over here to a designer that I know." She said, "I think she would have more things, for you than other designers that I know. But let's go see what happens here." So she took me around. We walked a couple blocks, I guess, and we got to this place, and it was locked. And it said, I think it was called Koshko. And it was a woman designer who owned the place. And it was locked, but the personal shopper knocked on the door, and this woman unlocked it and welcomed us in, locked the door behind us, and took me over to a staircase. And we went downstairs. And in the downstairs area, she had a number of things, and she had a whole rack of clothing, right? And this clothing was all my size. So she'd picked out, I don't know, 10 or 15 items. She designed them that she thought would fit me or that I might like. So the whole idea that I was alone in the store, she'd lock the doors, and the personal shopper was there, and so we picked out some things. Just there was a lovely jacket that she had made, very very multi-use type jacket. There were a couple pairs of pants. There were some blouses. There was what else was there? I don't know. I think there were just several things, and there was obviously a dressing room. So I went in there and tried different things on, and got the prices on them. They weren't cheap. They weren't cheap, but I had this little bit of money set aside. So about halfway through the fittings, um, she says, "I think we should take a break." And so the three of us sat down at a table and had tea and cookies. This is the kind of shopping experience I like. I was feeling I didn't care about the clothes that much. It's the experience. It's the experience. So so we had that. It was very nice. They weren't rushing me. They didn't put any pressure on me. Nothing. And they were actually very frank and honest about what they thought. So there was at one point she said something like, "Well, we really need to emphasize, this particular part of you that it's pretty good, and we're not de-emphasize maybe something else." And so I bought the jacket, which I've gotten a lot of use of, and I did buy a pair of pants, which now I need to take off a little weight before I get those on again. But they were very different kinds of pants. And what else did I get? I think it was a blouse, and it didn't come up to the money I'd set aside at all. It was I'll be frank. It was for the three items. I think it was around. Well, it sounds expensive, really, but the jacket was like $400. So it was it wasn't cheap, but at the same time I felt like I'm paying for the experience. I'm paying for having a personal shopper, and and it was delightful. And it was and then I'm on her mailing list. I think it's called Kashko Mishko, and I'm on her mailing list, and so that's fun. I get these high end fashion things from her every once a year when she does a runway show or something like that. I did one other thing in Paris, which is not particularly, it's not really out of the way. I needed a haircut, and we were staying in an Airbnb that was on the top of an old building. It was like a garret up there, but it had a nice view out the window, and the place was tiny but well located. And just at the bottom of the bottom of the building and to the right was a hair salon, and I really needed to get a haircut. So I went in there and made an appointment, and I went back, and when I got there, it was again something unexpected makes these trips really interesting. They said, "Come along up here." So they took me into a room and handed me a bathrobe and told me to, kind of. I think I actually did. I have to cover up my clothes, or did I actually? I think I got partially undressed. I can't remember. And then she took me upstairs, this woman, and they had a whole bunch of uh, dryers up there, and that's where they washed people's hair. And so while she washed my hair, it was also a vibrating chair. So I was getting kind of the back massage, and she's doing the hair and all that. And then when she's finished, she puts a towel on my head and she says, "Okay, just wait here for a little bit." And after a bit, she takes me downstairs, and a young man, oh, maybe he wasn't so young actually, middle aged maybe, came over, and he was not friendly. I mean, I got the feeling he didn't like Americans that well. So he said, I said, "Just you do what you think you want to do. That's fine." He said, "Okay." And so then I started to talk and things like that. And he started to warm up and not be so kind of aloof. And he cut my hair, and he had it in a different way than I usually wear it. He said, "Now, he said, this is the real you. This is you, and we just had a good time during that period. I'd never had such, I don't know, he spent a long time cutting my hair, and my hair was the length it is now. So, but he ended up being delightful, and the whole experience of wearing the bathrobe and having the vibrating chair and the real personal attention again was something that I had never had before. And the haircut was around, I think that whole experience was about $90. So let's see what year this was. Probably about 8 years ago. I think it was about 8 years ago. So those two experiences, and of course the art museums, d'Orsay and the Petit Palais, and I didn't go to the Louvre this time, but we had a wonderful time in Paris. We were there in January, so there weren't the crowds, and the food can be quite interesting and excellent. And anyway, so that's the last time I was in Paris, and like I said, I emphasized experiences there that I wouldn't have here and that I wouldn't pay for here, but I'd rather pay for experiences than for things because experiences seem to last longer. That's just my take on it. Thanks for listening.